What is going on, you guys, and welcome back to the channel, where today we're talking about Civil War. The movie that looks at the horrors of war through the lens of a camera, as opposed to the scope of a rifle, and tells the story of a select number of states that have seceded from the greater U.S. and are locked in battle with what remains of our government as a small group of photojournalists race to our nation's capital to capture content of the president before it's too late, and all of the bumps and bruises they sustain along the way in their journey. And I suppose I should open this up by saying that when I first sat down to watch this or first heard about it, I was admittedly pretty nervous. I judged it pretty hard and was like, oh boy, here comes, another topical thing. Somebody's got an agenda or an opinion to push in regards to our political climate, and I don't know. I rolled my eyes and was just kind of over it before I gave this one a fair shake. Um, and then I sat down to watch it, and I think I, like many others, were pleasantly, but both relieved and pleasantly surprised to see how little this actually has to do with politics beyond using them to set the stage and explain, look, here's the situation we're in, this is why we're in a civil war, um, and not really pushing farther than that, and kind of keeping things all in a very neutral, vague sort of light. And as far as I'm concerned, that works for me because I don't really think all of that matters anyway. Just like I would argue that the authenticity of the photojournalism depicted in this film probably doesn't matter either. Now, I don't know that much about it. As far as I'm able to tell, it was moderately accurate, but of course, just like with everything else out there in Hollywood, there's going to be some creative liberties taken in order to make the wheels on this thing go round and round. But like I said, don't really think that really matters either. I would say that the real meat and potatoes of the story has to do with the people in this business. Prolonged exposure to the hazards of the job, you know, constantly putting yourself in harm's way just to get that perfect shot. Death and destruction around you at any given turn, and how the difference between life and death for you or someone that you know or are close to can really come down sometimes to nothing more than just the flash of a camera, and how all of those things can really grind a person down and wear them out. And you really kind of get to see that full spectrum with our main characters. On one side of the scale, you have Jesse, who is our young, fresh face to the business, who is just very eager to get out there and catch her big break. And then on the other side, we have Lee, who is our uh, grizzled veteran of the business that is very, she's seen some shit, obviously, and is very numb to it all. I think it would be fair to say um, that she's relatively dead inside. And Jesse looks at her as this, you know, really successful, really awesome female photographer and a role model. Um, and Lee is very jaded when it comes to that. She's not very happy that uh, Jessie is wanting to get into the business, and looks at her own work uh, much more as, a warning. She puts the pictures out there that she takes as a warning to stay as far away from things like this as you can. It, rather than treating it as something meant to inspire the next generation of photographers coming behind her. She's very tired. Lee is very she's worn extremely thin. And I think we really see that once we get to the war zone towards the end of the movie, where she's just not on top of her game compared to Jesse and Joe, the other member of her crew. This is just they know exactly what to do. This is just another day on the job for them, right? And they're very focused and they know exactly what they need to do. Lee, on the other hand, is just not mentally there. She's she freezes. She's crying a little bit. She looks very panicked. Just very obviously communicating to us, the audience, that something is very wrong with her internally, with mentally. She just doesn't want to be there this time around. And all of that culminates with her in a final act of heroism, sacrificing herself to protect Jesse from getting shot, which is pretty prophetic because earlier in the movie, the two girls are having a conversation about this very thing. Lee is scolding Jesse for taking too many risks and potentially getting herself killed, and Jesse fires back with something along the lines of, if that happens and I do end up dying on the job, are you gonna snap it? Are you gonna get the shot? Are you gonna document it? And Lee says, "What do you think?" And then as things play out, you see that it's Jesse that actually captures the moment, gets the shot, and documents Lee's final moments. I don't want to take away from the seriousness or the drama of that situation, but I do have to say that if I was a soldier in this situation, whose job is hard enough, getting shot at, you're in the middle of a war, you're in the middle of fighting, making sure doing everything that you have to do to make sure that you and your comrades are safe. But then I also have to stick my neck out that much further to keep some dumbass photojournalist from getting killed themselves. I'm gonna be pretty miffed, right? But no, look. All in all, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's the best movie ever, or even one of my favorites. But I will say that I've seen it multiple times, and it's all around just a solid film. I would say that it probably is going to take a certain mood to get into it. But if you're somebody that's looking to sit down and have an experience that is tonally serious, and character-driven narrative, this is going to scratch that itch, right? This isn't a feel-good movie. This isn't the type of thing that you're going to put on for background noise or anything like that. This is just something that you're going to have to experience, and I would recommend it to anybody that hasn't seen it. I think it's one of those movies that you got to see at least once. And as far as I'm concerned, if I'm in the mood to watch something like this, this is a movie that I would watch. Like I said, I've watched it multiple times now, and I would watch it multiple more. But that is going to wrap this video up, guys. So as always, thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next one.